Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests. With your host, Kenneth, Wesley, Mason. That's me. And I mentioned probiotics. Can you talk about the benefits of probiotics as opposed to antibiotics?
Definitely. Absolutely. And so each one of us has a universe unto ourselves of the kind of bugs. So for example, we all will have some similarity of the types of bugs that we'll have. And by bugs, I mean bacteria, viruses, parasites, candida, fungus. We have all of them. And it's just a matter of the balance of the good guys versus the bad guys. And believe it or not, we need both.
Right,
But
right.
like life, which is tricky, bringing
Yeah.
them in balance again. And so just like you were saying, it's a top-down approach for even balancing the good and bad bacteria in our gut. But again, because of toxins, inflammation, stress, not drinking enough water, all of these will create an environment for these bad guys to overgrow the good guys. So we have to bring that in balance. And for bringing that in balance, we can do that by feeding our good bacteria with fiber. But if you haven't been eating much fiber, you need to take that slow, because otherwise at first that can lead to some bloating, gas, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition, there are probiotics that are very good. And probiotics are interesting. It's one of those things that you don't want to get attached to any one particular brand. It's good to take it for a little while, stop, take it again a little while, stop, and try different brands because they'll have different bugs, different amounts of bugs. But the key is really with the bacteria is increasing your own unique universe of bugs, which are very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, we can do that with fiber and fermented foods. Every culture in the world has had their own version, like sauerkraut or yogurt and different things of that nature of what they have in their culture to increase the good bacteria. But even with that, it's good to start slow because sometimes it can lead to a little bit of too much overgrowth of the bugs at first, and that causes a little bit of a war to get the bad guys. And so I've learned that slow and steady wins the race. So introduce a little bit more fiber or a little bit more like fermented foods, a little bit at a time, and let your body do what it needs to do to balance out those bugs.
Yeah. I mean, we call it the friendly flora, I guess, because we're equipped with everything that we need. It's just a matter of us depleting all of our energy resources based on the diet, based on our toxic ways of thinking, and just going through life, just kind of in our own little world, not necessarily being consciously aware of our health. We kind of let things. We prolong and allow things to linger year after year after year after year after year. And then we get so backed up. Again, the trash compactor, we kind of start just smashing things against our small intestines. And then we get backed up in the large intestines. And then we get the bloated, like you mentioned earlier, the belly, the protruding stomach, if you will. And that can cause a lot of damage over time, including a worst case scenario, possibly colon cancer, and which all can be prevented.
Yes.
All can be prevented. Can you give us some prevented measures before we go into, because I want to go off into another realm, because you have anxiety and depression here. But as far as these are concerned, what are some remedies, or what are the best ways that, from a physical position, before we go into the thoughts in the mind, um, what are some things that we can do to combat this daily assault that we put on ourselves, eating all the toxic foods? What can we do on a subtle level? Not that you have to become a stone cold vegan or vegetarian, unless you choose to, but what are some things that people do, that people can do to kind of remedy, or prevent the condition of diabetes, prevent the condition of high blood pressure, prevent a spike in cholesterol levels? What can we do on a daily or as a daily practice, or what can we kind of make into a habit? What can we do?
Definitely. There's so many things that we can do that are easy. It's just a matter of being more proactive and making sure that we all know that we deserve to take the time to take care of our health. That is as important, because oftentimes we get so busy in life, we just put ourselves last. So make sure you put yourself first and put that oxygen on your mouth and nose first.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
But one other point I wanted to make as well, as you were bringing about detoxification and the colon, is we all should be having at least one good bowel movement a day. And that's the minimum. That is the minimum. Ideally, we should be having a bowel movement at least twice a day after, each meal, but at least once a day we should be moving our bowels. That is very critical, because this is one of the major ways our body gets rid of toxins, in addition with our bowel movement, in addition through our urine, through our skin, through our breath, in other ways as well. But colon is critical. And so to enhance your digestion, again, digesting your food properly actually helps with elimination. You may need to, and I'm noticing a lot of us need to take either some form of digestive enzymes, again, because when we're under a lot of stress, our body is just not going to produce enough of the acids and enzymes to break food down. So you may need extra support. And sometimes just taking some extra digestive enzymes may help with your bowel movements. And then water. Most people, and I can speak for myself for sure, that I'm definitely not drinking enough water. And so I have to do as I say.
Coming from the doctor, huh?
Right? Yes. Yeah. I've got to drink my water, not just have it next to me.
Right.
So hydration is really important. It's very important because it helps you make more of the stomach acids and more of the digestive enzymes and more saliva.
Yeah.
Plus it lubricates and helps move things out and pushes things out of your bowels as well. So definitely make sure you keep sipping on water every hour, and drink, at least half of your body weight in water per day. And then the other thing, just because of our lifestyle and jobs, most of us are sitting most of the time. So we're not getting that movement. We're not moving that lymph, which is the vacuum cleaner in our body, and helps also our bowels to move as well and push out toxins in every which way. So nothing major. I would just say just go for a nice walk, at least 15 minutes a day. Even if it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes is better than no minutes. Don't think, okay, I have to make a gym membership and I have to go out and do this and that. Don't make it more stressful. Just go for a walk. And so at least moving your body, and then having more fiber. And again, if you've been eating a lot of fast foods and haven't been, maybe not having enough time to cook at home, then do this slowly. But, we should be eating a few cups of vegetables per day. And if your stomach is more sensitive, it's good to eat well-cooked vegetables, but just get all kinds of vegetables, different colors, different flavors. Start with what you like at first, definitely, but experiment a little, because the more also bitter vegetables that you eat, it takes a little getting used to, but in Europe, the reason they say they ate salads before their meal is to get their liver to produce more of the bile to break food down, and to get the stomach to produce more acids and enzymes.
Yeah.
But, we tend to coat our salads with lots of other dressings, which have everything, but maybe just start with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of salad at first, and more veggies. And grains are a little bit tricky because of the world we're living in right now with their breads. But there are some wonderful breads out there. Actually, there's one company in Vista. I'll just mention their name. Is that okay to mention
Yeah,
their? Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. It's called Pacha, Pacha, and they're based in Vista.
Okay.
And they're a type of it's just bread that's made with buckwheat and sea salt. No other fillers, nothing else.
Nice. Nice.
And so that's what we're eating now as a form of bread because we stopped eating bread for a long time because of that reason. And
Yeah.
so, so now it's like, oh, we can get our bread in again. And so grains are very important, but the right type of grains because of the world we're living in. And and then the other key point then is what for detoxifying, keep it simple. Again, with everything else we've been talking about, the fiber will help and exercise and water, but you may need to work with a practitioner to help you detoxify your body as well, because the more you do that, and it's needed, it's not even an option anymore. And there's different supplements and different things that you can do. And juicing, of course, is wonderful.
Yeah.
Intermittent fasting, which is, basically from the time you eat dinner to the time you eat your first meal in the morning, the time will vary person to person. Experiment. There's no hard and fast rule, but at least 8 hours to sometimes 11 hours will also help your body detoxify, cleanse out, get rid of cells that are not so good, and
Yes.
improve how your cells are sensitive to the insulin, can lower blood sugar, blood pressure, and so many other benefits.
Yeah.
Those are some of the main things. And then there's, natural supplements you can take, with minerals, whether it's magnesium, vitamin D, zinc. There's aloe vera juice, which is great for all of the conditions we've talked about and very supportive for the liver and digestion and blood sugar and lowering cholesterol. But anything bitter, including fenugreek, is if you cook with a little fenugreek, like put a little bit of oil. When it heats up, put some fenugreek, let it season a little, and then you can stir fry onions and other veggies. That's very good for blood sugar. And then there's different herbs that can be very helpful, like gymnema, excuse me, sylvestre,
Hmm.
which helps you. It actually changes how sweet things taste to you. So if you
Okay.
were to take that herb and then eat some sweet, it wouldn't taste as good, which helps
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
That helps
Yeah.
to balance blood sugar. But in ginger and there's chromium, there's so many different things we can do. But the key is the foundation of what we eat, what we think, drinking water, getting more fiber in your diet, exercise, and doing some kind of relaxation every day, even if it's just closing your eyes for 5 minutes and putting some cool, uh, washcloths on or wash rags on your eyes. And that really relaxes the nervous system too. But stress and emotional health is as important as anything physically we're doing to our body.
Yeah. I eat a brand of bread called Ezekiel. You may have heard of that,
Hmm.
um, which is great. And with my salads specifically, and some of the salads that I give to my clients, I add chia and flax and hemp seeds. Um, also, I always use olive oil. I mean, I completely stopped using, the ranch and the Thousand Island and, the French dressing and, because of the overabundance of fat content that's in it, plus all the other 50 ingredients that make up salad dressing, which, it's not even dressing at that point.
That's right.
And so your body has to, again, take more energy um, to digest just that alone before it even gets to the lettuce and all the other vegetables that you may have in your salad. And it'll help as a fiber, because chia, uh, once it attaches with water, I guess it starts to expand.
Right.
It'll expand in your gut and starts to kind of sweep your colon walls, if you will. So I like to use that as well. We don't have to necessarily be afraid of eating bread. Some people are really kind of fearful. I don't want to eat bread. Um, because of what we talked about earlier, how it kind of cakes in your system. But when you have bread such as what you mentioned, or an Ezekiel type bread, that doesn't necessarily use a wheat base. And I remember, you know what, you talked about wheat when we interviewed you a few years back. You talked about wheat and how wheat has been totally manipulated on a mass scale. Really quick, can you talk about why wheat may not be the best way to get our fiber?
Yes, it's exactly what you stated, is because it's been so manipulated. You know, what they did is they made the grains shorter, stockier, so that it would have more yield. And in the process of doing that, the grains now have up to 90% more gluten than they did before, 1960. So bread is turned into rubber, and it's full of chemicals. And it's chemicals of what they're spraying to grow the grains, but also they're spraying these drying agents to get the grains in the chute faster to
Mm-hmm.
process it.
Mm-hmm.
And those drying agents are as toxic as what they're spraying pesticide wise on the wheat. So that creates all this inflammation in the gut and causes what's known as leaky gut syndrome, where the gut is
Right.
really inflamed. We get bugs end up going from your gut into your bloodstream. Our immune system becomes on stress mode to try to deal with all of this. And then we can see a lot of the different diseases and autoimmune conditions, even Hashimoto's, which affects the thyroid. We see a lot of different health conditions and diabetes and heart issues, which can be traced back to an inflamed gut. And so that's why people are having trouble digesting bread. They're not absorbing it as well. It's spiking up their blood sugar because they're saying even a slice of the traditional bread, has several tablespoons of sugar in it. It's
Right.
even like candy. So for all of those reasons, you need to go back to healthy grains,
Yeah.
made the ancient way, and that's going to be the best for us going forward, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm gonna show this here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but this is a clip of us several years ago, um, and I'm showing this because your mother came to the studio with you on this occasion, and so on the air, I just want to tell you, I just want to give you my condolences because you mentioned that she passed away. I guess
Mhm.
sometime last year.
Yes.
And so I remember all of this quite well. And we had a great time. And there's your brother Deepak, who I definitely want to speak to and get him on the show as well. And so and we had a great time there. You see my mom right there.
Yes.
Um, I want to go into, as we go into our final minutes here, um, let's talk about the mind and the brain, because we talked about water, which the brain is housed in. We talked about cholesterol, which kind of, because the brain, I guess, is made of fatty tissue. And um, many illnesses are created through what we call anxiety or being overly anxious, or prolonged depression or prolonged sadness, or what we call depression, which literally changes our body chemistry. All of our thoughts get translated into chemistry that permeate all of our entire bloodstream, if you will. And today we're hearing more and more and more about mental illness, or what they call mental health, but I guess it can still be called mental illness based on all the labelings that are given to people that have prolonged behavior patterns. Um, can you speak on anxiety, depression, and why why having a clear mind can create a better functioning body?
Definitely. Well, we're seeing an explosion of anxiety and depression based
Absolutely.
on events that have taken place over the past 3 years and how everyone's lives, were completely transformed.
Yeah, pandemic. Yeah.
And for their children and in the schools and everything became disrupted. And then on top of that, there's situational issues, whether at home or with their job or other situations in their life that may have been taking place. And so what's happening now, and what we found though, that even despite what may be happening in the outer world, it is our perception of the events that are taking place that really determines how we react. So, in other words, how we see the event that has taken place, how we interpret what has happened, really then determines how our body responds, whether stressed or excessive stress, or whether how we're able to deal with the situation. They did a study some time ago. They took a yogi, a Zen monk, and a CEO, and they gave each of them the same exact stressful situation. And for the yogi, he didn't even respond because he was completely in an altered state. And the Zen monk came out of the situation, came out of being in that relaxed state, took care of the situation, and then went back into that relaxed state. And the CEO executive was stressed the entire time. So, like,
Right.
right? So it's
Right.
just a matter of balance. And what we're finding now, in addition to how we view the events and how we're able to handle it, is our gut is completely connected to our brain. They call it the gut brain axis or the gut brain connection. So when the gut is inflamed, the brain can be inflamed. And the same brain chemicals that we produce in our brain, we also produce them in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
So when our gut is really inflamed, we're not going to be producing all of those relaxing feel good chemicals like serotonin, which is mostly made
Right.
in our small intestine.
Yeah.
And if we're not getting enough nutrients, we're not going to have the building blocks to make all of these good chemicals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're overloaded with bad bugs, meaning too many of the candida, the parasites, the fungus, the bacteria, the viruses, then they actually produce chemicals that causes us to feel more anxious and to actually then crave foods that we shouldn't eat, which then creates more inflammation in the body, which then craves more acidity, which allows them to grow and thrive. So there's several things at play with our emotions. It's the
Mm-hmm.
situation, it's our how we deal with the situation, it's our gut health and inflammation, and also the balance of the good and bad bacteria and the minerals and toxins. All of these play a role into how we're actually feeling. So we can still, there's many different techniques that we can do to help us relax and, to even shift how we perceive what is going on. My brother's work does that as well. But there's different forms and different technologies available, different techniques. And then we go back to the gut, heal the gut based on what we're eating, exercise, water, all of those good things, and then balancing our digestion, enhancing our digestion, because even getting rid of those bad bugs is a top-down approach.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we're getting enough acids and enzymes to kill all of those extra bad guys, and then to help us eliminate and push that stuff out as well. And so, but all of these play a role, including bugs, believe it or not, into how we're feeling. And some people, when they've just been moving their bowels better, eating better, and getting rid of those extra bad bugs, suddenly they said, "Oh my God, I'm not feeling anxious. I'm able to sleep better. My mood, I'm not feeling depressed." And even the whole effect on how they're seeing their life changes. It's that powerful.
Yeah. And then it creates, what they call brain fog,
Yes.
over time because the body has been so infiltrated and it is connected. That's why they call the brain the central nervous system. I mean, it literally controls um, all aspects of how the body functions by way of how you perceive. What's the saying? Your perception is your reality. And you mentioned, and real quick before we start to wrap things up here, last time you were on, we talked about a simple remedy but it's something that we really don't hear too much about. We typically hear about what's called emotional freedom technique from Gary Craig, but he was one of the ultimate students of Dr. Roger Callahan. Really quick, can you explain the technique that he created several years ago? Because he just passed away a couple of years back. Can you explain that technique and why it is so effective? It's kind of an unknown to most people, but you know, when you're in the know, you kind of get to learn about some of these techniques. Can you quickly explain how that technique operates?
Absolutely. So Dr. Roger Callahan was a genius. And what happened was he is a psychologist, and he was tired of he wanted to see quicker results faster for his patients. And so he ended up studying acupuncture and acupressure for the point of saying, how can I use these ancient techniques to help people with anxiety, depression, and trauma? And so he had a patient, her name was Mary, who had a phobia of water. And he had
Oh
tried,
yeah,
right?
I
He
remember her. Yeah,
remember
yeah,
her, and
yes.
he, tried getting her near the pool, and she would get scared and run away. And so he tried all these different techniques. Then one day when he was studying acupuncture, under the eyes is one of the key meridians. And he said, okay, Mary, tap under your eyes. She said, what? He
Yeah.
said, just tap a few times under your eyes. She said, okay. She did. And then suddenly she bolted out of the room. She's
Hmm.
like, oh my God. And she was going near the pool. He
That's
said, oh
right.
my God, what's going on? So he ran. He said, Mary, Mary, stop. And then she turned around. She laughed. She said, don't worry, Dr. Callahan. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to jump in the pool, but now I'm not scared of it. And she was able to put her hand in the water. And then after that, her water phobia was gone.
Hmm.
And so then he refined it, and he came up with specific tapping points.
Yeah.
So it's basically acupuncture without the needles or acupressure, but he found a specific sequence of how to do those different points and tap very gently just a few times on each point to get
Yep.
rid of stress, anxiety, depression. Because he says there's blockages in the flow of energy. And when you open up those blockages, then and also being well hydrated to clear toxins. He said
Right.
both of those things will then allow the energy to flow easily and the way it should be, and then it gets rid of anxiety, depression within minutes. And we've taught even little kids to do it, and it's amazing. It's been life changing, that technique.
It's very simplistic. It does sound kind of crazy to think that I'm just doing this, but but in actuality, this is a system that's rarely discussed in the mainstream. The meridian system. It's the invisible system that we all have. All human beings have energy channels where sometimes energy can get stuck. Again, based on our perceptions of what is, and if you tap, some people, I think Dr. Callahan called it perturbations
Right.
in the field, your thought field, and many of us have layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of this based on a lifetime of perceiving things in such a negative manner. But when you start to tap, and you may have to do this every day, maybe for the next couple of months or so, maybe even 6 months, who knows? But over time, the initial whatever situation that caused you to feel in that adverse way, in the moment, tap on certain pressure points. And over time, you will start to see that you won't feel as bad, if you will. That situation won't have you feel the way you did yesterday or a week ago or last year even, because now you're clearing or you're sending shock waves through your meridian channels. It's like sending a shock wave and blowing out these emotional energies, if you will, the invisible energies that can get stuck in not only your energy channels, but they can also get stuck in your musculature as well. I've noticed when I was doing massage therapy, um, I noticed a couple of my clients just start bursting into tears because there's been a release of stuck emotions in that are kind of lodged in the muscles. They're kind of stored in different places in the body. So when you tap, it blows out those energies, if you will. And over time, like peeling the layers of that onion or the banana, you'll start to get closer and closer to your natural soul, if you will. And then you get to kind of live more free spirited. Is that a fair analyzation?
Beautifully stated, Kenan. Oh my goodness, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And
Okay.
that's why it's so liberating.
Right. It's liberating. It's liberating because you're doing it.
Yes.
You're doing it yourself. And once you learn the sequences, and I know Gary Craig does kind of a different kind of a rhythm with it, and you kind of say certain things while you're tapping, which is all great as well. The technique, however, overall, it definitely works. Dr. Callahan has a book, I think it's called Tapping the Healer Within. Gary Craig co-authored a book called The Promise of Energy Psychology, which I have in my library. And they're all great because, again, our thoughts kind of create, all of our things that we kind of see and perceive. Once you get your thoughts correct, or once you change your thoughts into something that's more beneficial for you, the whole body starts to take on an entirely different meaning, if you will. And it will work for you versus your body working against you because of all the stuff that's in the world. So using the tapping technique is probably one of the bigger or better ways, without the needles. You don't have to see an acupuncturist necessarily, because acupuncture is actually a different kind of a setup. It kind of opens energy channels, but it doesn't necessarily blow out the negative stuck energies, if you will, such as the tapping does, because now you're actually forcing energy to move through because of you doing the actual protocol yourself. So tapping definitely is one remedy that can be used for things like anxiety, when you have a depressed episode, or when you're feeling down on yourself. Tap so you can feel better about you. And then over time, life will start to look different for you. Life will start to look different, and you'll see yourself differently too when you look in the mirror. So as we close, Dr. Chari, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on. Where can the people find you? Or how can the people find you? Because you've moved now. You were in Santa Barbara before. So where are you now? Where are you located, and where can the people find you?
Definitely. And again, thank you, Kenan. It's such a pleasure being on your show again with you after all these years. Great to reconnect. And yes, for
Absolutely.
any of your viewers and listeners who would like to reach me, our center is called the Chari Center of Health. And I still have my medical license in California. I do virtual consultations. I'm a virtual medical doctor. And we
Okay.
moved to Sarasota, Florida.
Okay.
And we now live, close to our uncle. And so we live here in Sarasota. And we still have our practice here. And so I'm licensed in California and Florida. And our website is charicenter.com, which is our last name, Chari, CHARICENTER.com. And
Okay.
you can still reach us at our same phone number, which is 760-230-2711. We kept our number, so
Okay.
760-230-2711, or our email is info@charicenter.com. But our main website is charicenter.com.
charicenter.com, and I'll put all that up in post-production when I put it on YouTube. We'll put all that up. Dr. Chari, thank you so much for being my guest on the Kinetic Hour. It's greatly appreciated. Come back, because there's always stuff to talk about, new technologies. I watched one of your videos on a healing patch that you were speaking about. I watched, this about a 20-minute long kind of a seminar that you did on this patch that has some healing benefits as well. So next time you can come on and talk about that as well. But I want to thank you for coming on, and to everyone listening, check out Dr. Chari. She's one of the beautiful lights, if you will. She's very knowledgeable, and check her out, the Chari Center of Health. Chari Center of Health. So all my best to you. Thank you so much. And to everyone that's watching and listening, again, go to my YouTube channel, The Kinetic Hour, and that's Kinetic, Kennetic, and Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. Till next time, thank you so much.